Patrick, thank you for joining the webinar. We'll get started now, and just want to make sure that we make the best use over the next 20 to 30 minutes. Patrick, you want to give a quick introduction about you and about your company and what you do with Clay, and then we can start how we can help event planners build effective event outreach.
Yeah, absolutely. And appreciate you having me on. I'm Patrick Spychalski, co-founder of The Kiln. We're an agency that helps use tools like Clay, N8N, and a variety of others to help companies with their outbound, inbound, and RevOps processes. And so, yeah, pumped to be here.
Perfect. And again, full disclosure, guys, we have worked with Patrick. They're absolutely amazing to work with. So that's why I wanted to make sure as well that I think everyone out there who is in event planning can, see how one can use Clay for effective event outreach. Patrick, do you want to walk us through the basics? I want to make sure that, you understand that most of the people out there listening to this webinar might not have ever used Clay to begin with. But if we can just go through a bit of that and then how Clay can be used just for event outreach, that would be amazing for all the listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, maybe it's first just worth talking about, what Clay is and what Clay can do. And then secondly, how you can use Clay specifically for event-based outreach or event-based workflows. It's also first just also worth prefacing that event outreach has been some of the most successful that we've done in our agency. I just find that the response rates are significantly higher. They usually lead to much more interesting conversations. And so I wanted to walk through kind of two different ways you can perform event outreach on this webinar. And I have two tables associated with that I'm pumped to walk through. So first, kind of like, what is Clay? So for those who don't know what Clay is, the best way to describe it is probably as a really good enrichment tool combined with a really good workflow tool. And it's specifically made for go-to-market. And so it's this tool that allows you to find essentially the best data for any given publicly available data point that you can imagine, like, funding, employee counts, et cetera. And then you can use that data to create really interesting workflows. And so some of the core use cases that we see most frequently when using Clay are outbound. So outbound and outbound enablement. So some of our clients will run outbound campaigns in a completely automated fashion. And I'll show you kind of a few examples of how we do that. Some of our clients have more of enablement runs. So like, let's say, for example, they have 100 sales team members at their company and they want to automate maybe the research process of doing prospecting, or they want to automate the message drafting process, but they want a sales team member to look at that message before sending it. So you can automate all of that using Clay. You can also automate inbound lead enrichment and scoring and segmentation. You can automate lead routing. You can automate the cleaning and the maintenance of your CRM. So I think anybody who's used Clay will tell you it is a super complicated and flexible tool, but if you can harness it correctly, you can do a lot of really great things. And particularly in the event outreach niche, I think it's really important to note like how powerful it can be. And so, if you'd like, I'm of course happy to kind of go into walking through some of the tables. I'm willing to take it however you'd like me to.
Yeah, and Patrick, that would be amazing because again, the first time I used Clay, it's simple to start using it. So again, it looks like this giant Excel sheet, and you can keep on adding columns, and you can see what you want to do with those columns. But unless you understand the complex nature of it or the configurable nature of it, you don't get the true benefit of what Clay has to provide. So I would love for our audience to be able to visualize, how Clay looks, how some of those tables look, and how, some of those things can actually happen. Because the thing with a lot of these tools out there is that they all sound great, but often the hardest thing is taking that first step. So my hope with this webinar is that, we help people visualize that, how that first step, with some of those tables that you might already have, can look like.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I also think it's just worth noting that the reason, Clay is so complex and that it has a learning curve is because it does actually build the things that you want it to build. I think a lot of the out of the box AI tools that exist now have a flexibility problem. Like if you use them, there's a very good chance that it doesn't exactly fit the use case you care about. It might just kind of get close to it. So like, you see a lot of like, for example, like AI SDR tools that have come out on the market. They try to provide a similar function to what Clay does, but the problem is when you orient the SDR, it really is it's pre-coded essentially to provide one base service. And if your use case does not adhere to that base service, then it ultimately ends up being a problem. So yeah, and then I wanted to talk about the two ways that we've done event outreach using Clay, and then can walk through the two tables. So the first that we've seen work really well with clients is reaching out to people attending another event. So like scraping the event attendees of like Dreamforce, for example, and then reaching out to them to book meetings with them. And so we see it as almost like a great proxy for finding new leads and running outbound campaigns on smaller lists. And then the second is actually reaching out to people to attend your event. And so I figured both of these could be useful because if you don't host events, then you can still use events to get leads for your business. And if you do host events, then obviously you're looking to get as many attendees as possible, and it's pretty important to do so. So I will share my screen and start walking through it if that works with you.
And yeah, and both of these sounds absolutely amazing. So
Awesome. So as a quick background on this clay table, this was for one of our clients' clientele. We had an awesome case study with them, particularly pertaining to this clay table. And both of these tables that I'm going to show you now, I think are pretty basic, and I think anybody could really do in practice. It's not rocket science by any means. And the background is they were looking to get more clients, more customers for their AI CRM admin tool. So they essentially had created this agent that could help improve things in your CRM, and they had a really good offer, which is like you can use this tool completely for free for the first 2 months. We just want to get on a call with you. And so they were planning to attend Dreamforce. It was kind of their big event of the year, and they were looking to chat with as many people at Dreamforce as possible. But they wanted to ensure that the people they were reaching out to were in their ICP and like actually a viable buyer for their product. So we first went and scraped everybody who had ever posted about Dreamforce, not ever, but let's say in the past like two weeks. Everybody who had posted about Dreamforce in the past 2 weeks, and we put them into a clay table. And so you can see we have in Clay, for those who don't use Clay, it operates on kind of like a table mechanism, kind of like a Google Sheets or an Excel. And it has these dynamic columns that you can orient to perform actions for you. But so we scraped all the posts we could possibly find about Dreamforce, and then we narrowed it down to about 500 people who were in their ICP and had posted that they were planning to come to Dreamforce. And I would recommend using something like Apify for this. That's what we used, at least. It's a great scraping tool, and you can scrape based on keywords. So we just scraped every single post that mentioned the word Dreamforce, and we use an AI integration in Clay to tell us whether it's mentioning that they're attending Dreamforce. Because like, for example, if somebody posted like, I hate Dreamforce, I'm not going this year, and we reached out to them, that's going to be pretty tasteless. And so we wanted to make sure, we were actually reaching out to people who were attending. So we scrape those people, we normalize their company, and then you can see we have the text content of their post right here. And so we used Apify to scrape all of this, and Clay is a direct Apify integration, so it was able to just throw all this information into a Clay table. And you can see here we had all the texts. We use an Anthropic integration to figure out whether this implies they're actually attending the conference. And then we use a very basic first line to reach out to them saying, hey, I saw your post about X. And so we wanted to make it somewhat personalized. And it's also just like they just posted about it. It was very fresh in their mind. We thought it was a great first line to get people's attention. And so it's very basic. We just use another Anthropic integration, and we pretty much just said, hey, I'm going to provide you with a LinkedIn post, make something that says, saw your post about blank. And then we threw in the post right here. And you can see it outputs, saw your post about attending Dreamforce, and some variant of like, I'm excited to connect, or like, I'm pumped to be there as well, and I'm planning to attend. And then it's really as simple as we just added this personalization to a smart lead campaign. And then the rest of the campaign said, we're planning on attending as well and trying to network with people who are in our industry. Would love to chat about this product that we're coming out with. We think it could be super interesting to you, and I won't take too much of your time demoing it to you in person. And we ran this campaign to this entire list of people. They literally did not have a free moment at Dreamforce. Like, they got so many responses, they actually had to turn down some of the meetings at the end of the bookings because we didn't anticipate getting as many responses as we got. So it was just a great way to like book meetings, and they ended up closing a few deals off of the meetings that they had as well from this campaign.
this is amazing. And again, just for the audience who don't know how some of the power of Clay. After you have enriched it, and again, I can see that you have that first draft message also already prepared. Um, when that email draft is prepared, or when that LinkedIn message draft is prepared, what do you do next? Like, does the tool allow you to also dispatch that email from Clay itself, or is it more like you have to copy paste, open your work email, and then send it manually? And the same thing with LinkedIn message. Is there a way to go ahead and push those LinkedIn messages directly from Clay, or the goal is to copy paste it and do it manually? So if you can.
Totally. Yeah. So there are kind of two options you can take in Clay now to run campaigns. They have a sequencer that exists within the product that you can actually just send emails out through in Clay. So um, you can essentially send it to the sequencing tool. It can send the emails out for you. All the replies get sent back here, and you can respond to them within Clay. The second option is using an external sequencing tool. So, for example, this integration we have here is piece of tech called SmartLead. And SmartLead is, I don't know why this is airing, but
Yep.
let's change it to something else. Regardless, SmartLead is a sequencing tool. You can use it to send emails out at scale. And so you can create these alias email accounts, connect them to SmartLead, and send out like hundreds, if not thousands, of messages a day to people. And then you can respond to those messages in this sort of unified inbox within the SmartLead platform. And so it's a really intuitive way to scale your email outreach.
Perfect. And just going back to the initial part, so I really like the part that you were able to scrape something that exists out there on the web, in this case, maybe on LinkedIn, based on keywords, which is who's going to Dreamforce, or who's going to this, and then from there generate this list. What exactly is used to scrape that? So I know that it runs through Clay, but is that an integration within Clay that allows you to kind of pull all of that data?
Yeah, totally. So I'm not sure. Can you see this new tab when when I'm typing?
Yeah, I can see, like, yeah, Amplify, I think.
Awesome.
Apify.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
so this tool right here, Apify, is an incredible way to scrape structured data from different websites. And so it has a ton of these different apps, and you can select the app that you care about and then scrape data that imports into Clay. And Clay has a direct integration with Apify. And so you can, for example, scrape LinkedIn posts that mention a specific keyword, and then you can actually connect that directly to Clay. So every time a new post pops up, it goes directly into Clay automatically. And so we use this to scrape the information that ended up getting enriched in Clay.
perfect. That's brilliant. Uh, this is absolutely clear, and I think a lot of the people who wants to, let's say, reach out to people who are attending a particular event for their own event, I think that this works brilliantly. We're talking about this other table as well, right? Let's go through that now as well.
Absolutely. So, as mentioned, I wanted to have two different types of demos. The first one reaching out to people attending an event, trying to connect with them, and then this one inviting people to an event. So, I wanted to keep this very simple again, and I want to talk through how this table was made and what we did to create the campaign. So, in short, we in Clay, you can source companies and people really easily. So for anybody who's used Sales Navigator, you can pretty much just do the same thing in Clay. I can even pull up like a quick Clay Clay tab here and show you how this works. But it's very simple. You just click New Workbook, and then you can go to, let's say, Find People, and you can type in all of the different things you care about, from like job titles, languages, locations, etc. And you can scrape lists of people very easily. And this is actually completely free to do in Clay. It only costs money when you start to enrich the people. So you can see it's essentially like Sales Navigator. And so what you're able to do for a given campaign is import lists of companies or lists of people really easily that you care about. And so in this case, let's say we care only about companies that have been raising Series A and they're between 11 and 50 employees, or 1 and 50 employees. You can very easily do this in Clay and import them into a table. In this case, we imported like around 150 companies that we cared about, that we wanted to invite to an event in person in San Francisco. And so you can see they're all based in San Francisco. And let's just say we're having this event where we're trying to court Series A companies, and we want to do something creative to get them to show up. So in Clay, all of this stuff gets automatically imported for you. So like they'll give you funding and description of employees. It's all like very, very simple. And it gives you like a ton of different data. And you can find any additional data if you want to on these companies or people by just going to the enrichment panel. And you can be like, all right, I want to find, let's say we didn't have their funding. You can just type in funding, and the enrichment pop up, and you can find the different piece of information. So in this case, we didn't really want to do anything major. Like we just wanted Series A companies in San Francisco to reach out to for an event. So we imported them. What we wanted to do is find people that worked at these companies that we cared about specifically. So we created a find people search in Clay to find a list of contacts. You can see we have it filtered down. But if you go to the source, we wanted to find founders or co-founders of these companies that were based in San Francisco. And so you can see here we have the founders and co-founders here. And we enriched the person to find more information on them. Just very basic data. We particularly enriched them because we wanted to get their profile picture, and you'll see why in just a second. But we got their profile picture URL from enriching them.
Mhm.
And then we decided, okay, so like, what if we sent a custom image invitation with their picture on it to them in an email campaign, or a Hey Reach campaign, actually. So a LinkedIn campaign in this case. And so we found this thing called templated, and you can create these dynamic visuals using their API. And so we essentially created a template image invitation for this event. And then we called upon that API in Clay. Clay has this direct HTTP API integration. So we see the templated endpoint here. And then you're able to dynamically insert the person's picture URL right here in the API call. So if you can structure the API call properly, you can call upon it and you can output these custom invitations. So for example, we have this guy, Sam. It says you're invited to a special GTM dinner, and you can do this with everybody in the list. And we figured sending this to somebody via a LinkedIn campaign would be a little bit more creative. People don't get it as frequently.
Yeah.
And you can create these at scale using Clay. So if you wanted to invite 100,000 people, the process would actually be the exact same as it is here.
This is absolutely brilliant, and I like the part where you can personalize it all the way, adding a picture. Um, that's pretty cool. Just one question, right? So as it's picking up people, as of course, you have integrated some of these external tools in there. Um, the one that the one that's already in Clay, do you have to have subscription for that separately, or when you buy these Clay credits, you know, you can still make use of all of those things that already exist? So just tell me a bit more on that.
Yeah. So I think one of the cool parts about Clay and the reason people use it is it acts as a data marketplace where you don't have to buy enterprise subscriptions to any data provider. So I'm sure anybody who's worked at a big company is used to having these massive data providers reaching out to them saying, "Hey, you want to buy an annual plan for like $300,000 a year?" And then wouldn't even
Oh, and I know a lot of other stuff, right? So like,
totally, yeah. And it's like, and you're like, "Well, I don't even know how good the data is." And you're like, "I don't know how frequently we'll actually use this data." But like, if you're at a big company, these data vendors are just like aggressively trying to close you on these big enterprise deals. Clay essentially gets rid of the need for that because you can buy Clay credits and apply them to any data vendor you care about. So if you go to the enrichment tab, you can see a bunch of these different logos, and like all of these logos are essentially applying to a large scale data vendor. So for example, one that I really think is great is HG Insights. If you type that in, it's a tech stack provider. It can essentially find what if companies are using specific pieces of technology. And the reason I love that Clay has this so much is because if you went to HG's website, you like would have to get on a call to buy an enterprise plan to get this information, and it's now democratized in Clay. And so you can you're gonna spend more per credit sometimes than you would buying this big enterprise plan on HG Insights, but it's so much more flexible than actually purchasing it at scale. So for a bunch of the clients we've worked with in the past, they'll have these insane tech stack spends of like sometimes millions of dollars a year on data providers. And we've been able to just significantly reduce that by saying like, hey, you're not using, let's say, HG Insights nearly enough to be justifying this like $300,000 a month plan. Why don't we just use Clay credits, which you're spending like $30,000 a year on, and then just apply it easily. So it's worth noting that these credits are essentially a currency to access any of the data.
perfect. No, that's brilliant. I love both of these use cases. Anything else you want to add in there? I know that there's a lot more one can do with Clay, but I also want to make sure that we help people start with the first couple of steps. But anything else that you have seen work really good for event planners, people who are running conferences, events?
Totally. So a couple things I would definitely recommend looking at. The first is I would highly, highly recommend running LinkedIn campaigns when you get the chance to. The conversion rates for LinkedIn campaigns are so much higher. And especially for events, we've seen great positive response rates, like in the two examples I've shown you. The second thing I would talk about is that in-person events we've seen are particularly really great on LinkedIn. Like inviting somebody to a dinner with like a select group of, let's say, CEOs or CMOs or CTOs. It's just like an incredible value add. Like people want in-person experiences, and if you can reach out to those who are like living in your city, I mean, at least when people DM me saying, "Hey, like we're having this dinner," I
Yeah.
usually much more inclined to respond. So I would highly recommend um, trying to make them as much in person as you can.
Both of them are great. One of them, I'm going to use it myself as well. We do also host a lot of dinners, primarily with customers, but with time, what we have started doing is that, if 20 of our customers are coming, let's bring in 10 more prospects as well, or 20 more prospects as well. So I think I like the part where you can send that invitation, like personalized with the image and everything else. So maybe a bit of that, maybe a bit of just LinkedIn ads as well should help. I think someone like us or anyone else get those conversions.
Yeah, I think also one thing also worth noting is that I think what's fun about doing event outreach is you can be more creative generally than you would in other outreach. Like if you're running, I don't know, like a financial services firm, it's not like you can create like funny dancing videos of your prospects and send it to them. But if you're running events, the allure of an event is to be entertained and to experience something engaging and exciting. And so I think being creative actually lends very well to that in your outreach. So creating this invite, for example, is like it's enticing because you're getting like this customized invite and you're like, wow, I feel kind of special. I feel like this will be a fun event. It could be worth my while. So just I would say be creative when you're doing it. It's also worked very well.
Patrick, for anyone who want to maybe use your services for Clay, or want to just reach out to you to learn more, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Yeah, so I would just say, reach out to me on LinkedIn. That's usually where we're most active, and totally down to help chat through any events or not events related outreach.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Patrick. This has been extremely, extremely helpful. Again, I think both of the use cases has been something that I know that a lot of our listeners, event planners can benefit from. And again, anyone who wants to reach out to Patrick, their agency, connect with Patrick over LinkedIn. Thank you all for watching the webinar. Thank you, Patrick, for being here and for educating us how to use Clay.
Of course, appreciate you having me.